Continuing Jessie L. Weston's From Ritual to Romance, Chapter 1, Introductory. In view of the extensive literature to which the Grail legend has already given birth, it may seem that the addition of another volume to the already existing corpus calls for some words of apology and explanation. When the student of the subject contemplates the countless essays and brochures, the volumes of studies and criticism which have been devoted to this fascinating subject, the conflicting character of their aims, their hopelessly contradictory results, he or she may well hesitate before adding another element to such a veritable witch's cauldron of apparently profitless study. And, indeed, were I not convinced that the theory advanced in the following pages contains in itself the element that will resolve their conflicting ingredients into one harmonious compound, I should hardly feel justified in offering a further contribution to the subject. But it is precisely because upwards of 30 years' steady and persevering study of the Grail texts has brought me gradually and inevitably to certain very definite conclusions, has placed me in possession of evidence hereto ignored, or unsuspected, that I venture to offer the result in these studies, trusting that they may be accepted as what I believe them to be, a genuine elucidation of the Grail problem. My fellow workers in the field know all too well that the essential elements of that problem I do not need here to go over already well-trodden ground. It will be sufficient to point out certain salient features of the position. The main difficulty in our research lies in the fact that the Grail legend consists of a congeries of widely differing elements which at first sight appear hopelessly incongruous, if not completely contradictory, yet at the same time are present to an extent and in a form which no honest critic can afford to ignore. Thus, it has been perfectly possible for one group of scholars, relying upon the undeniably Christian legendary elements preponderant in certain versions, to maintain the thesis that the Grail legend is ab initio a Christian and ecclesiastical legend, and to analyze the literature on that basis alone. Another group, with equal reason, have pointed to the strong marked folklore features preserved in the tale, to its kinship with other themes, mainly of Celtic providence, and have argued that, while the later versions of the cycle have been worked over by ecclesiastical writers, in the interest of edification, the story itself is non-Christian and folklore in origin. Well, folklore or Christian, they separate and they combine. They're not distinct. Both groups have a basis of truth for their arguments, the features upon which they really are, in each case, undeniably present, yet at the same time each line of argument is faced with certain insuperable difficulties, fatal to the claims advanced. Thus, the theory of Christian origin breaks down when faced with the awkward fact that there is no Christian legend concerning Joseph of Arimathea and the Grail, neither in legendary nor in art. Well, actually there is, isn't there? Is there any trace of the story? It has no existence outside the Grail literature. It is the creation of romance, and no genuine tradition. Well, it's certainly passed on, so it's an actual tradition. On this very ground, it was severely criticized by the Dutch writer Jacob van Maerlant in 1260. In his Merlin, he denounces the whole Grail history as lies, asserting that the Church knows nothing of it, which is true. Well, there are certain reasons why the church would not want the Grail legend to be promoted.